Good morning, everybody. Thank you. It's time to light the chalice. The words are in your order of service, so if you'll join me. With this chalice, may we kindle the flame of our attention, not too fiery or wild, spreading without cause or care, not too dim or fading, unfocused and ineffective, but like a cheerful cookware in a cozy hearth, like a comforting candle, flickering yet steady. May our attention be befriended, directed, and sustained for the benefit of all humankind.
Thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. We're going to deviate a little bit away from our program this morning. We have some exciting presentations that will be taking place. They need a little bit more time, so I'm going to try and compress things just a little bit. Good morning. My name is Charlie Tyler. I'm the pastoral minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Low Country. And for those of you who are here as visitors, I would like for you to know that in some kind of odd way, the universe has conspired to bring you into the group of the kindest, most gentlest people that I know about, at least in the Low Country, maybe South Carolina, maybe broader still, but that's my opinion. So if you're here as a guest or a visitor, thank you for making us complete today. You are the ones who fulfill us, and we thank you for that. There's going to be an opportunity, if you would, later on to introduce yourself. But if you would right now, those of you that are guests, first or second time, if you'd reach forward and take one of those yellow cards that you should see in front of you, fill that out. And when the plate gets passed, the only thing we want you to put in that is your yellow card. Your gift with us is your gift. So please don't feel like you have to be responsible for any financial givings. But if you are a first or second time visitor and are willing to stand and tell us where you're from, we'd love to hear from you. So on my section, the far right, your left, any first or second time visitors that would like to stand and introduce yourself? I see, no, okay. In the center section, first or second time visitors that would like to stand and introduce. Yes, if you would, please.
This is my daughter, Amanda. She has one daughter, 2 cats, and 11 chickens.
Welcome. Glad you could be with us today. Thank you. And on my left, your far right, first or second time guests. Any? Those of you who are members, who have been members for an extended time, you are here because you know what we bring to your spirit, to your heart, and to your hope. And I pray that you continue to find that here in our time together. A number of announcements that I want to bring to your attention. Give me just a moment to get caught up with ourselves. As I said, Gloria Owens will be speaking with us. Let me give you a little bit of background behind Gloria before she begins to speak. Gloria Owens is a visionary artist, graphic design, photographer, longtime yoga teacher whose work explores the intersection of art and spirituality. She's born in New York City, which means she's related to half of you here. Over the decades, she has built a thriving graphic design career, also owning a yoga studio in Connecticut before relocating to South Carolina. Gloria's work has been featured in the United Nations Culture of Peace Symposium, my goodness, during the Week of Spirituality, Values, and Global Concerns in New York City, and in numerous yoga studios, retreat centers, spas, and galleries across the country, whether for contemplation, inspiration, or decoration. Gloria's art inevitably opens the heart and soothes the soul, inviting viewers into the present moment. We're looking very much forward to having you with us, Gloria. Thank you so much for being present today. The new leadership, we need new leadership for our Building and Grounds Committee. If someone is just really feels an urge for that, I want you to speak to David Kelly. David Kelly's right down here. He's going to be speaking to you in just a moment. If you have a heart for that, we want your heart. We're that way. The classes continue to go on for the Peace Games. If you are interested, talk to me about that. We also have cookbooks continue to be for sale. Last night was really special. For those of you that were able to be here, meaningful, and we had a grand time. As a matter of fact, out of that, we found 2 new members, Bob and Joan Robertson. Are you guys in the room today? So they have come from other Unitarian congregations, and so they signed the book to join last night. And I know David wants to say a few things about last night. So David, if you would, please.
Good morning, everyone. Let's bring this up a little bit. I had fun last night. It was. I just wanted to thank everybody who could make it to join us in Sparkle. It was a different kind of event, but I think it was something that helped us really get energized and kick off our campaign for 2026-27. We had 18 pledge cards come in and a little over $39,000. So that's a great start for this year. And I'm going to end it by saying, please make sure this is a yellow card inside, a pledge card. Please make sure you review this. Keep your candle lit for your reminder that you took home last night, and bring it in or mail it in so we can reach our goals. Thank you.
The theme last night was glitter, and we continue to have the glitter peacock imitation feathers on the front of the pulpit to remind you to do so. And we've left the glittery little things to pass through on the way in to remind you to make your pledges. Not that we're emphasizing that too much. Marcella Palmer would like to invite you to her organization, the 5th Black Family Wellness Expo at the Oscar Frazier Community Park next Saturday, March 21st, from 10 to 2. Health screenings, food, education, seminars, and lots of fun. Marcella, would you stand, please? So if you're interested in that, talk with this young lady down here. Thank you, Marcella, for being available for that. I have an unfortunate piece of information to give you. One more time, there has been someone who's managed to find how to get some of your email addresses. And at least 2 people have gotten a false email from me under an artificial email name that does not exist, with a scripture passage that I would never use. Which was the dead giveaway, I think. So if you get something like that, just go, yeah, and move on. If you want to call me or contact the church office if you have a question, by all means, please do so. But I want you to be heads up for that. I feel like I might be forgetting something. I do want to be able to say that it's important for us to be reminded that the Native American tribes, who were the original stewards of the land around Malfris Road, were the Escaboo, the Escamanku, and the Yamasee. We continue to honor their memory as our place here on their land. Now, if you would please, we're going to divert a little bit from our time. If you would take your hymnals into your hands now. Gloria will have her opening words later on, but if you would take your hymnals into your hands, I'm going to ask if you would please to sing verses 1 and 4 of hymn number 134, Our World is One World. If you would please.
I forgot the book. Our world is one world, what touches and affects us all. The seas wash us from the hill, not of another rise. The rains that fall
seated. This is the time where we share our abundance and bring our gifts. And so if we would please make ourselves ready for that part.
So speaking from the Department of Redundancy Department, this is the time that we share from our abundance. As you know, we contribute to both the community food pantry and Bluffton Self-Help and place those items on the table in the back. So no 40 years old can of Spam. Please check the expiration dates on what you bring, but your generosity is greatly appreciated. It is also time when we share from our abundance to sustain the work that goes on inside and outside these walls for us as a congregation. Thank you for your generosity.
This is the time where we bring our joys, our sorrows, and our concerns for the congregation. This is the community time. What I'd like to ask as you come up, if you're willing, to take a stone from the basket in a very spiritual way, if that joy, that concern, that sorrow of yours, that you would be able to place it inside the stone in a way that belongs to you, and then leave it here so we might be able to find strength and offer you that strength too as we share it. So that's a time that we hold this as sacred in this sacred space in these sacred words. If you would, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you as always. I have a joy and a concern. So that's my first joy, all the support and love that I find here, that Abby finds here. I have two concerns. One is that as adults, we don't talk about adult things in front of little kids, including my Abby. So if you'd like to connect with me, I have, and like you've had my personal number before, I'd like to give you another phone number on our way out. And then the other concern is, it was so great to hear Dick's message last week about respite, because I really needed that. I haven't had that for about a couple weeks. So when you're going through a hard time and you're like, I just want a normal day. So I'm going to claim today as my normal, try to be happy, happy day. So if you can help me achieve that, I would love that. And if you want to talk to me, I'd be glad to text with you later or call or something. Okay. So love you guys. And thank you. So joy and concerns. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Linda, and I have a joy today. not this week, but last week. My oldest daughter came in to spend a little time with me during some difficult days, and I was very much appreciative of it. And coincidentally, my granddaughter had soccer games scheduled they live in Macon, in Statesboro and Savannah on Friday and Saturday. So I had the joy of having my daughter with me, and then the joy of being able to see my granddaughter play soccer. So it was a really special weekend during a very difficult time.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Friedman, and I have a joy. And the joy is that last evening, there was such wonderful fellowship in the room during the pledge event, and it was really lovely. I really enjoyed it, and it's glad to be back to UUCL. I've been away for quite some time, so I'm glad I'm back. And one little thing that I want to add to what David said, the pledge cards of those individuals who were not here last night will be outside available for you as you exit. So Sharon and Linda and I will be handing them out. So those of you who are old timers through this, you know what that means. So thank you very much, and it's so good to be back.
My name is Walt Hoskins. I'm a new member as of about 3 weeks ago. This is my sixth Sunday in a row. Thank you, sorry. Two concerns or disturbing news items. One is my wife's cousin's daughter was a star basketball at college, University of Louisville, Kentucky. And she plays professional women's basketball, travels Europe, Mexico, Poland, all sorts of places. Right now, she's in Tehran without access to her passport. It was in the police station and was blown up by a bomb. So there's a way to get replacements if you can find someone from the U.S. Embassy to help out. So she's okay, and she and her roommate at the apartment where they were staying are fine, as last I heard. But the rest of the team made it out in time because they had access to their passport. Second item is a different cousin, totally different, whose son was in the military in uniform, not serving anywhere over there, and he died by suicide a couple days ago. I don't know if it's related to anything else, but it's a lot to take in at once. So I got one for each of the two families affected by it. And we pray for safe passage back, and we're counting on it. We're just carrying that around.
In the interest of time, we're going to forgo the affirmation today.
It's now my pleasure to invite Gloria Owens to come and bring us the message for this morning. Glo, if you would, please.
Oh, thank you. So bear with me a moment. I've got audio visual for you today, hopefully. Yay. So hi, I am really, really honored to be here with you this morning. We are going to be taking a journey into art, architecture, history, religion, sacred geometry. There's going to be words of God, divine, source. I'm going to use those interchangeably. Please feel free to replace those words with any that work for you. And before we begin, I just want to check in and ask, who here is in the math or sciences? Math or sciences? So I will apologize in advance that I'm going to oversimplify the math. And for the rest of us, there's no math test at the end, so you can exhale. How many of you are in the arts, graphics, music, visual arts, architecture, design? Yeah. So I hope there's going to be some things that are intriguing for you and inspiring for you here today. Many of you, even last week, have asked, what's sacred geometry? What am I actually going to be talking about? And we are going to say, well, like you may have some big questions about the world. For me, some of those questions are, is there any rhyme or reason behind the way things grow, behind nature, the patterns that we see, in the seemingly endless variables and chaos? I do. Should I just go on the mic here? There we go. Okay. So in the seemingly endless variables and chaos of the world, is there actually any method to the madness? I'm a visual artist and a designer and a yoga teacher, as Charlie said. And so this has been kind of a curious inquiry for me as to, have you ever thought about our DNA, snowflakes, a shell? Like, why those patterns? Why those designs? And these life forms are created out of geometric codes. And so sacred geometry is really this subject of the blueprint of creation, or sacred architecture, if you will. So let's break it down. Sacred. What does the word sacred mean? It means holy, revered, divine, transcendent, connected with God, that which brings us closer to source or ultimate reality. We could say that we are in sacred space here, yes? Geometry is the branch of mathematics that studies sizes, shapes, angles, and attempts to define reality in mathematical terms. And from a UU perspective, these are lines from the first couple of pages of our hymnal. We are really looking at what is the direct experience of the transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. And so that's really what we're going to be exploring today. What is that transcendent mystery and wonder and those forces that create and uphold life? And in our theme of attention this month, what if we could notice, discern, and align ourselves with universal codes of beauty, growth, harmony? And how might that shift our experience of ourself and the world? So just to back up a moment and say, why am I so interested in this? That's me and my husband, Gary. He's sitting here in the front row. My son's here too. But I am the daughter of an engineer and an artist. This is really where these two worlds converged. My dad was the engineer, and from him I learned that science and math ruled, and that there's a natural order to things that could be understood through science and math. And my mom was the free spirit, the Renaissance woman, the artist. She was a painter and a writer and a seeker. And from her, I learned that the world is magical and illogical and mysterious. and to always be willing to question and grow. And I know one of the things I love about you here is that we are a congregation of not so much dogma, but questioning. So we're going to dive in. One of the easiest shapes of sacred geometry to recognize is the spiral, is the logarithmic spiral. It's the Fibonacci series, and we'll see it in shells, in fiddlehead ferns, all kinds of things in nature that you would recognize, and that's a tail of a lizard. So this is about it for the math. Don't worry about it. But I wanted to offer this to you. It's pretty simple. So this Fibonacci spiral, it's also called the logarithmic spiral or the golden mean or the golden rectangle, is based on numbers 1 and 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, and so on. It's just the addition of the numbers. And when you look here, you can see that this rectangle that the spiral creates, if you were to break that into a square, what you're left with is another golden rectangle. And if you were to break that into a square, what you're left with is another golden rectangle, and so on and so forth into infinity. But basically, it is this proportion. It's approximately a 60-40 proportion. But if one side of that rectangle is 1, then the other side is 1.618. And there's a whole bunch of other numbers after that, but we're just going to call it 1.618. And it is a really special proportion. It not only happens in nature, we'll see it in obviously the shell, but have you also looked at the way rose petals grow, or really looked at an artichoke, or the way strawberry seeds grow? This is the awe and wonder we're talking about, just like in our everyday world. The center of the sunflower is this design. Those seeds grow in that mathematical design. It's really quite amazing. And there's also water. The waves crash in that shape, water down a drain spirals in that shape. Hurricane from space is in that shape, and those proportions, those numbers. And really, we are in that shape. Our whole galaxy is expanding in those numbers. So we're talking macrocosm and microcosm, whether it's the strawberry seeds or the galaxy, that we are intrinsically in and around these numbers, this sacred geometry. It does play out in all kinds of different shapes, triangles, circles, squares. We're not going to go into all this today, but just know that there's a lot of different manifestations of these numbers. And ancient cultures and artists throughout time have known that this was a special proportion. So the pyramids of Giza, that is that proportion. Parthenon in Greece. Notre Dame Cathedral, these are just a couple of examples, but Notre Dame Cathedral, you can see the architecture is totally based on the 1 to the 1.618. The rose window is part of that number series as well. So even in sacred spaces like this incredible cathedral, the sacred geometry is actually built in, literally, to the architecture. And a more modern example, which might not be so obvious to begin with, the UN in New York, it's basically a big block. It just looks like, a big 1950s modern building, but if you see where the break of the architecture is that proportion, and so are these outbuildings, these secondary buildings that were designed specifically with this proportion. So while we might just see it as modern architecture, there actually was method to that madness as well. Obviously in art, we're familiar with the Great Wave. Michelangelo was both a mathematician and an artist and an architect. And he used this proportion a lot in his work. And this, of course, is the famous God touching Adam in the act of creation on the Sistine Chapel. And you can see how he used this for proportion and composition in his artwork. The Mona Lisa, again, composition. And even Salvador Dali's The Last Supper, you can see where the proportion happens exactly where the table is, where the disciples are. And finally, a kind of an interesting modern version. We're all very familiar with this logo. That apple could have been designed in any way. It could have been a squatter apple or a fatter apple or a different kind of leaf. But if you'll see, it is designed specifically out of circles of these proportions, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And that was quite purposeful. So we might just see this and not think about it, but it really was designed to feel right. Again, we have these as natural proportions that feel right to us. So Michelangelo also did a lot of study on the human body and the human proportions, partially so he could render his paintings so well. But one of the fascinating things is if you look at your hand, if that's 1, your forearm is basically 1.6.8. Like our body is designed in this way as well. And our fingers as well. If your nail is 1, your first knuckle is 2, the second knuckle 3, 5, 8. And there's other places in the human body where this shows up, but if you put your hand in a fist, you've almost got that logarithmic spiral right there of those proportions. Our ear, of course, is a beautiful example. And our eyes, we're going to talk about interlocking circles in a moment, but our eyes are also designed in sacred geometry forms. So we're going to go a little three-dimensional here. If you were to take 3 golden rectangles three-dimensionally in space and slide them through each other like cards, you would wind up with a 3-dimensional icosahedron, which is one of the plantonic solids that really are the building blocks of nature. We see them a lot in crystals and rocks, etc., particularly. But those building blocks, we're not going to get into it. This would be like a whole course. We're not going to get into the plantonic solids. But if we were to take this one plantonic solid made up of logarithmic rectangles and 3-dimensionally rotate it in space and then map it 2-dimensionally, you'd wind up with all these different designs. We're going to pay attention to just this one right now. Again, there's so many different manifestations of these numbers. So this is what's called the Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron. And you'll notice, particularly for those of you who come from the Judaic tradition, we've got the Star of David in there. We've got the upward-facing triangle and the downward-facing triangle. And this is, in sacred geometry, considered to be masculine energy and feminine energy. And interestingly enough, the word Merkaba is derived from the Hebrew, meaning Mer, light, Ka, spirit, and Ba, body. And so it's believed that this shape, this kind of 3-dimensional combination of the triangles would be a portal to higher consciousness and realms of enlightenment. So we're going to go to the circle now. We've been in our triangles and our spirals. We're going to go to the circle. Of course, we think of the circle immediately as wholeness. But when we look at a circle, there's the dot in the center. And from a yogic point of view, this would be Shiva and Shakti, pure consciousness, Shiva coming into form, into the circle. And this is also how life starts. We all start with one cell. We are pure consciousness coming into form. And when you add a second circle of the same circumference from the center around, you wind up with this symbol that's called the Vesica Piscis. And it's made of those two interlocking circles, and it's often considered to be a symbol of the divine feminine, of female fertility and birth and life. Interestingly enough, if those of you who are familiar with the fish symbol in Christianity is actually from this Vesica Piscis shape. So it's not just about the loaves and the fishes. It's about virgin birth, new life there, and that's the fish symbol comes out of the Vesica Piscis. If we turn the Vesica Piscis vertically, you'll also see that it's used tremendously in Gothic architecture. This is just one example of how that then plays out in Gothic architecture. And here, in the middle of the Vesica Piscis, here's our eyeball. If we were to draw the center circle, there is, again, our sacred geometry in our body. And if you were to draw other circles within the circles, you're going to wind up with what's called the seed of life. And this is kind of a key symbol in sacred geometry. I've actually used it. This is my visionary piece of art here. I've actually used it. You'll see the Vesica Piscis and the seed of life here in this piece. But basically, this is how our cells divide. We start with the one cell, we divide into 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the time we're 7 cells, it creates this symbol. And so there's a sense that our consciousness is encoded in this geometric seed, if you will. And if you continue to program out the circles and continue to repeat them, you're going to wind up what's called the flower of life. And this symbolizes the interconnectedness of all things. And again, this kind of blueprint of creation and harmony. By the way, if you overlay the Kabbalah tradition in mystic Judaism, this is called the Tree of Life, and it's a map that explores the hidden dimensions of the divine creation and the human soul. And it's basically about metaphysical truths, but it absolutely sits very specifically on that flower of life geometry as well. And we're back to our triangles. So if you draw triangles in that circle, we're going to wind up with that Merkaba again, the upward-facing triangle and downward-facing triangle. And finally, Metatron's cube. This is also a key symbol in sacred geometry because it not only has the circles and the triangles, but it actually houses all the plantonic solids in it. So all the plantonic solids live in this shape as well. And so Metatron is an archangel. It's derived from the Greek, meaning beyond the throne. In other words, higher than the king of the land. In other words, with God. And so Metatron is considered to be the intermediary between the realms of heaven and earth. And so this symbol becomes one of those images that might help us do that. So there's lots of different variations that these shapes come and manifest in. We're not going to go into them all today, but I want to share this one particularly with you, which is the Sri Yantra, which comes out of the Vedic tradition in India. And as a yoga teacher, this has been something very interesting for me, because you can clearly see in the very center there, you've got that bindi point, pure consciousness, right at the center. And you've got the Star of David, the Merkaba, then out. And then it turns into a mandala. Again, I'm not going to go into all the meanings of this with the different petals. And then finally, the 4 directions on the outer part. And there are a lot of different cultures that use mandalas in different ways. So for instance, this is an incredible Buddhist mandala. They do these sand paintings that take days and days to make, and then they destroy them, kind of a metaphor for the impermanence of life. But you can clearly see also the 4 directions here in this mandala. This is a Native American sand painting, which I'm lucky enough to have on my dining room wall. Gary's mom collected a lot of Native American art, and you can really see the 4 directions here and depicting the cycles of birth and life, death and renewal. And since we're right here around St. Patrick's Day, we couldn't help but not talk about the Celtic knot. So Celtic knots have no beginning and no end. The Trinity knot was originally a pagan symbol that got adopted by Christians in the 4th century to represent the Holy Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But you'll also see how this clearly overlays with the Merkaba and also the Flower of Life. So almost all of these knot designs are based on this geometry, again, purposely. And the labyrinth is also considered sacred geometry. It's got a long history of prayer and meditation. The path kind of twists and turns towards the center and then away from the center again, as if we're going towards God, towards peace, and then all of a sudden something kicks us out to the outer part of the circle. That ever happened to you? So the act of walking the labyrinth is the act of kind of faith, of following the path, regardless of which way it turns, to bring us back to the center, to that oneness, to that connection with God. And finally, as far as the symbols I'm going to share, the torus of life, if you were to take the flower of life and do it 3-dimensionally like a donut, you're going to wind up with a torus shape, it's called. And of course, we see this in black holes and other things in our universe, but this is essentially about energy coming down and up and through, like this cycling of energy, and a overarching theme of unity, interconnectedness, and divine flow. So these are just some of what we talked about today. Just wanted to give you an overview there. But it doesn't just play out visually. If you think about resonance, color, light, sound, these are frequencies which can be measured. And again, you can take a deep dive into this. I've got a sign-up sheet in the back. I can send you resources if you want on some of these things. But music, particularly, our pentatonic scale, can be mapped in sacred geometry as well. And frequency, sound, and pattern, there's a science of seismatics on like a metal plate that puts sand and put different frequency on the metal plate And then the sand creates designs. And you will start to see some familiar things here now, but in other words, sound also creates shape. And to that end, one of my favorite books on this subject about sounds, words, thoughts, can they really change us physically? We like to think so, right? The power of prayer. So this is Dr. Emoto's book, The Hidden Messages of Water. And he initially wanted to know if playing Mozart for his plants would allow them to grow better than playing heavy metal. And of course, we know the answer. The Mozart plants grew better. And so he extrapolated then and started to say, well, maybe it's not just music. So he started to freeze water. He'd play music or add taped words to tubes of water, freeze them, slice them, and then put them under a microscope. And found that water crystals change depending on our words, thoughts, intent. So Beethoven, gospel music, heavy metal. And if you really look at this, you start to see how words like thank you, truth, I love you, peace show up as gorgeous sacred geometry. You'll start to recognize those shapes there. Whoops, I'm dropping my mic. I guess I dropped the mic on that one. But what's most fascinating here is that the polluted water, Buddhist monks prayed over this polluted water, and they tested it again. They did not change the water. They just prayed over it. And that was the image after prayer. And so this has real ramifications for our power of our prayer, our thoughts, our words, to create beauty and harmony in the world, especially when we think about that our planet is covered with more than 70% water, our bodies are probably more than 60% water. So the words that we say to ourselves and that we hear and the music that we listen to does make a difference. Literally, we're creating sacred geometry in our bodies. And interestingly enough, there's an organization called the Institute of Heart Math. So Heart Math is an organization that's been studying heart rate variability and resonance and coherence between our heart and our brain. The research suggests that our heart actually sends more messages to our brain than vice versa. And that heart coherence is a psychological state where the heart rhythm patterns become smooth and ordered. When we think about the cymatic plates and the patterns that happen, that the heart rate becomes ordered when we have feelings like love and appreciation and compassion. And what's even more fascinating is that the heart's magnetic field can be measured as well. And again, you can dive into heartmath.org. I'll leave all these research sources for you, but the magnetic field can be measured several feet away from your body. And so we know this instinctively, right? Like we meet someone and we're really drawn to them, or you can feel their good energy, or we're like, ooh, I'm not so sure. I'm going to stay far away from that person. There is also, HeartMath also studies how our magnetic field changes with the magnetic field of the Earth. So there's a lot of science there, which we're not going to go into today, but just know if you're curious in that realm, it's there. And so ways to use sacred geometry, we're just wrapping up. One is for composition and proportion, art, architecture, design. That's something that I work with a lot in my pieces. We can cultivate curiosity, appreciation, awe, and wonder. We can get a glimpse at that divine designer, maybe the evolution, growth, unity, oneness through these shapes and codes to enhance our health and vitality, maybe just even with the water in our body. And as a tool for meditation and contemplation and having that direct experience of the transcendent mystery and wonder. So we're going to do a couple of minutes of meditation, and Brian, I'll have you cue up some music. So if you'll indulge me for a moment, I rather than just listening and seeing, I thought I would love for you to have a felt sense of what this really feels like in your body and in your energy field. And so I'm going to invite you to uncross your legs if they've been crossed, so we're not crossing the energy, to sit up tall, roll your shoulders back and down. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or halfway close your eyes, whatever you're comfortable with, but bring awareness inside. Imagine your roots could go down through the earth, through the chair, through your feet, through the foundation of this building, into the land that our Native American ancestors stewarded here. You might even imagine our roots mingling, the whole mycelium world down there. And feeling the energy of the earth come up into you. You might like to imagine this was that upward facing triangle of the Merkaba, like a mountain, solid in the base and energy rising upward. You might feel this as that golden wireframe, three-dimensional triangle around you. And then shifting your focus above the crown of your head, imagine light could pour in from above. Maybe it's from the cosmic sun, from the highest point in the universe. Let it pour in through the crown of your head like you were in a big column of light. Maybe imagining the downward facing triangle like a funnel that could capture all that light. There's nothing you need to do. It's like the earth receiving rain. And maybe sensing the center point, the bindi point, in the center of those triangles, the place in you that is between heaven and earth, between the physical realm and the cosmos. And breathe in that place, expand that place. You might feel like it's in your solar plexus or your heart, wherever it is. Where's the center spot? Good. And then slowly bringing your hands to prayer palms in front of that spot. In yoga, this is a mudra, Anjali mudra. Prayer palms is a gesture of bringing together the physical and the divine. Maybe feeling the heat between your palms, your pulse, energy. And slowly opening your eyes. I'm going to invite you to take your left palm and turn it upward. This is our feminine side, gesture of receptivity here. Like we could receive all that guidance, grace, peace, love, joy, creativity, well-being through your left hand. Bring your right hand with thumb and forefinger together. We're going to place the right hand on the left like a little plate, like a little candle flame. And this is our chalice. We are the chalice here. And I invite you to just turn to your neighbors, like you could just shine your light to those around you. From your heart, from the center of that sacred geometry. Beautiful. And thank you so much for coming today. I'm sure this answered or gave more questions than it answered. So please stay for the talk back. I will be here. And John, we're going to join our residents in singing now. And it's hymn 318 that we're going to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may be seated for just a moment. And this is the time where we gather ourselves and our hearts together for our closing, for the extinguishing of the chalice. I do want to remind you of our talk back, for those of you that are unfamiliar with it. Glo mentioned it a little while ago, but we'll gather back in here at about 11:15, and we'll continue to talk about some of the things that have been in Glo's message, questions you may have that might continue to probe deeper and down inside your own heart and your own souls. So please, if you would, and always, there's coffee that's going to be in the lobby. Stay in fellowship with us, get to know us a little bit better, and thank you for being here today. And now, if we would, extinguish our chalice. And if you would, please stand.
The words, of course, are in the order of service. While we extinguish this flame, we continue to carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.